just when you don't think Alabama needs another perimeter player, just when you think Alabama may be, okay with that recruiting class being a top 7 recruiting class, they finished the flip of one-time Kansas signee, Labaron Philon, and he's now part of this recruiting class that's coming in. It's got a 5-star guy at a forward, a 4-star center, a 4-star forward, and add Philon in there. And this continues to be an amazing recruiting cycle for Nate Oats. Technically not a portal guy, part of a signing class, but Philon was on his way to Kansas, and now he's going to be wearing crimson and white.
Yeah, the former Mr. Basketball, 33rd ranked national player. And I mean, I guess I saw this right. His junior season, he averaged 35 a game.
Yeah, I mean,
is that good?
Yeah, I think that's pretty dang good. Again, it starts to now. You start to think about numbers, and where does Mark Sears fit into all of this?
Yes,
I mean, there is a ton of perimeter players on this roster right now.
Just 12 roster spots are full right now. 1 open. Big guys expected to fill the 13th one. Some changes to that in a second. But, Brownie, we're expecting word today on a potential guy, and then there's a date to keep in mind on the other guy. But I think it's safe to say right now Alabama does expect Grant Nelson and Mark Sears back.
I would think so. I think that's the feeling. Grant Nelson has until tomorrow to enter the transfer portal, unless he has entered the NBA draft and it has gone completely silent. He's already missed that deadline. Now, there is a possibility he did it, nobody noticed it. I would think that's very unlikely. Generally, those things get reported very quickly. So I think him going to the NBA is past. If Grant Nelson wants to enter the portal, he has until tomorrow to do it. I think most people expect him to be back at Alabama. Mark Sears got much longer. It's not until the end of May that he's got to make his final decision on whether or not he comes back.
May 29th was the date you gave me.
Yep.
But Sears is expected back. Grant Nelson's expected back. 12 perimeter players visiting, according to sources.
This is going to sound ridiculous on the surface, but who is the more important player to come back now? Look, Mark Sears had maybe the greatest one season in Alabama basketball history, but you've got a ton of perimeter players now. And I know Grant Nelson, he can play on the perimeter, but he also can play big. And I'm just talking about with his length.
Yeah.
Could you at least make an argument that Grant Nelson more important right now to come back?
I would say no, but
I can see Lance's argument.
I understand your point, but I don't want to choose. This is
Jimmy Greedy over there.
And real quickly, before we discuss the roster, a couple developing things on the big guys. Clifford Omori from Rutgers, according to Tipton from On3 Sports and others, visiting starting yesterday this week. And then a crystal ball projection for Ugonna Onyenso from Kentucky is now crystal ball projected to come to Alabama. Now, you possibly could get both those guys and ask someone else to leave. That is a possibility. That happens in the real world. But right now, 12 scholarship players, 1 open, a big man expected. But Onyenso from Kentucky, now crystal ball projected to Alabama, and Omori from Rutgers is a guy who is visiting now and averages like 3 blocks. So at least 1 big man, maybe 2, still on the horizon for Alabama.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, how much extra money after going to the Final Four did Nate Oats get for NIL?
It seems like a lot right now. It seems like a lot.
I think the number that was asked for, according to reports that we talked about on the air, was $1 million more in NIL money. No more in my contract, blah, blah, blah. Just I'd love $1 million more in the NIL.
It feels like he's got more than that. The way they're involved in all these guys.
I mean, does anybody think they didn't have already?
No, they had a good amount already.
They had a good NIL anyway.
They did.
And all of a sudden, if you've gotten a good roster NIL-wise anyway, and then all of a sudden you get an extra $1 million at the end to go shopping,
yeah,
you buy a better house.
I will admit, it does look odd to look at the 24/7 Sports basketball recruiting rankings and see Duke number 1, Alabama number 2. That is an odd look. And On3 is not that much different. If you go to On3, Duke number 1, Arkansas number 2, Alabama number 3. Arkansas number 2. John Calipari is the coach.
Arkansas
is going to be there a lot now.
He can bring the talent in.
And look, and I know this is just the new world, but you remember how bad we used to dog Calipari out? How can you make a team? How can you put together chemistry when these guys are basically only playing for 1 year?
Well, that's all you do now. It's all you do now. You almost are doing it in football now, too.
I mean, if you think about it, Sears and Nelson obviously are returning players for Alabama, but their starting 5 could be 3 complete newcomers and 2 return. If Sears and Nelson both return, if Sears doesn't return, or if Nelson doesn't return, then you could have 5 brand new starters. You could have 4 and 1. You could have 3 and 2. I mean, I think that's the world of college basketball today. I think in a lot of ways, Calipari was just on the front end of it, of a roster construction that way. If Calipari were starting this at Kentucky right now, I think he'd even have more success because everybody's doing it now. He kept running up against teams that had been together 3-4 years sometimes.
And he was the master bringing in the best talent. We'll still see if he's still able to do that at Arkansas.
And what was crazy, everyone forgets maybe that the first year Calipari, or the first 2 years Calipari was doing it, people in Chapel Hill and Durham in North Carolina were like, we're not going to be the one.
That will not be us. That's not the way basketball
Very quickly, they were like, this guy's going to come play for us. We'll take him. One and done.
Yeah, I remember the first, I'm almost positive for Krzyzewski was Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
I remember only played like 6 games because of the injury.
Yeah.
And it didn't impact him too much.
Not at all. So, I mean, it's a different world of basketball. So I think everybody is going to have to learn to win this way. If you're not playing this game, if you're not playing this portal game, you're probably not keeping up in college basketball. It is college free agency, and everybody's going to have to be good at winning those. You're still going to have your random Oaklands of the world that are probably not going to play it this way, and you're going to run up against them in the tournament, and they're going to have one guy that can shoot 73s in a game. You're still going to run into that, but your top tier teams, I think they're all going to have to win this way.
All right, so Ugonna Oyenso from Kentucky, his numbers do not blow you away, though, right? But he is a big rim protector, 7-footer, true 7-footer. Omori from Rutgers, though. I've seen people using Clifford the Big Red Dog.
It's easier to say.
Best Clifford ever, Clifford Robinson?
Clifford
Huxtable. Come on, guys.
I mean,
he has lost a lot of steam over the years.
Do I get Cliff Branch?
I would go Cliff Branch over Cliff Robinson.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I don't know a lot of Cliffs anymore.
The Rutgers kid has better actual numbers that he would bring with him from Rutgers. I don't know what Onyenso can become. And by the way, God bless you, Chris Stewart.
No, it's going to be tough.
It gets a little tougher. Yeah. It gets a little more tough than Mark Sears
and Grant Nelson.
He makes
it seem easy, though.
Yeah, Chris does a good job of it.
He'll have them memorized before October.
That's when you pray this guy's got a nickname.